start with Little Rick and and talk about his dreams and aspirations and why he became so interested in music.
I grew up in a family where, on my mom's side, her two of her sisters were music teachers. Her brother was a bass player. My grandfather played the guitar, amateur guitarist. Um, and then my dad was a very avid music listener, especially jazz. He was a record collector, and even though he wasn't a musician, he loved music. So both sides of my family was a deep love of music, and I started taking lessons on the cello when I was in third grade, and ended up playing all the way through high school. I switched to the bass, then I took up guitar. I took the bass in sixth grade, then I went to the guitar summer of eighth grade, and then I just kept going. Got my undergrad degree in classical bass, got my master's in jazz guitar, and music just was always been part of my family. I'm from a big family of seven, and my younger brother John, we're the two youngest. We both play guitar, and so it's never thought of doing anything else.
Oh, when you got six, you got a band.
Right, exactly. Right.
When you grew up in Fairport?
Yep, Fairport, New York. It's a suburb of Rochester.
Okay. Were there any great musicians in that area?
Yeah, Chuck Mangioni's from Rochester. Drummer Steve Gadd is from there. There were a lot of great musicians from Rochester. A lot of not well-known musicians, but fantastic. Some, just incredible players in the area, in the upstate New York area. The Eastman School of Music is there. So the town I grew up in, Fairport, a lot of Eastman faculty members or kids lived in our town, and we had a really robust music program with 11 full-time music faculty for the town I lived in, which is amazing. Everybody had private lessons, and it was very highly valued and still is in the area. So,
am I wrong in thinking Lou Graham is from that area? I may be mistaken. I was
I'm
thinking
not sure.
Free Further March.
Mm-hmm.
Were you a session musician?
Was I a session musician? I played on many sessions as a producer, but I never really played as a session player, other than, people would ask me to play on their records occasionally, but I was a session player in that as a producer, I played on pretty much every record I ever did. So I guess I was a session player.
Yeah, I guess you did. And you produced some music, some bands and things like that in the early days.
Yep.
Now, I understand, I don't know this whole story, but understand you started a YouTube channel and has something to do with your son, Dylan. Is that correct?
Well, there were, I had some, I put up a video on my Facebook page of my son Dylan. He's got insanely good perfect pitch, and became a viral video. I mean, I didn't have very many people that followed me, only my family on Facebook, but it was ended up getting over 20 million views and got written about in a bunch of online press outlets. And that was about 6 months before I started my channel. So my channel, when I started my YouTube channel, I had about 40 subscribers or so, mainly family members, because that's where I used to post videos of my kids, like everybody early on in YouTube. But I started in the summer of 2016, so kind of related to my son. I had a few videos of my son on my channel when I first started, but I haven't had him on my channel in years. So.
Oh, that's interesting. For those that have never seen your videos, sort of give me a synopsis of the types of things that you talk about and things like that?
I started a lot of my early videos were based on teaching music, music theory, improvisation, ear training. I would do film score breakdowns of film cues. Um, I would do guitar videos, jazz guitar videos, things like that. Then I started in 2018. I started a series called "What Makes This Song Great," which were essentially breakdowns of multi tracks of famous songs and all different genres of music. And then I do music um, criticism, maybe, or no, music, not really criticism, but
Critiques, maybe? Or is
yeah,
it?
critiques. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have interviews on my channel. I mean, it's really all encompassing in all different genres, all types of players.
Mhm.
Um, and I've been doing it. I've done 1,063 episodes in 6 years.
Wow. It's really well done. Really well
Thank you.
done. My
Thank you.
husband is a huge fan. And so he said, "Hey, let's see if we can get Rick for an interview." But I've watched a lot, and I have really enjoyed them. Really, one of my favorites. Um, I get stuck on some of the travel YouTube videos. Everybody has their favorite, but and I don't really. He watches more music videos than I do, but
Hmm.
um, you're definitely at the top of my list. Do
Thank
you
you.
ever get political, or do you ever um, do you keep it just, you
No,
know,
I don't. I don't do anything but music on my channel.
that's it? I know you have trolls because every YouTuber has trolls. Uh,
Not really. I mean,
yeah,
I have very little things like that.
yeah.
Most of the things I do is controversial, or people, and when people disagree with me, it's because I haven't chosen their favorite band in one of my top 20 lists or something like that.
Well, your videos. I mean, I'm just amazed at the views. And I don't know, was that a gradual thing, or just all of a sudden there were thousands of subscribers, and I mean, you hardly get anything less than 500,000 views. You're really one of the most popular YouTubers out there, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I uh, I must pick the right topics, I guess, that to talk about.
No, no,
Uh,
don't be so modest. Uh,
well, it's
Yeah, there is some secret, I always feel like, or maybe a secret formula,
I
that
just talk about things I'm interested in, and it seems like a lot of people are interested in the same things I am.
you seem to have a good time at it too. You seem to love what you do, and I
I
think
do.
something like that might be infectious, and people can relate. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Um, are your other kids into music? Uh,
Yeah, my two daughters play. One plays violin, one plays the guitar. So my son Dylan plays the oboe. So all three of my kids play music. And I try to work on it as much as I can with them. Just on try to sit down with them at night and work on stuff. So it's really fun for me to do that.
yeah. And I know one of your passions, I believe, is arts education.
Yes.
And if you want to talk about that and what you've done to basically keep art and music in schools, it seems like they. Uh,
Yeah, I'm a big believer in music programs and in public schools, and I have a new Gibson signature guitar that all the proceeds from my part of it go to a charity called Save the Music that Gibson works with. It's um, uh, works on donating money to public school music programs, which I'm a huge believer in, since I had such a great public music education.
Yeah,
So,
well, that's great. Have you listened to the single? I think it came out last month from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's going to be on their upcoming album called Eddie.
mm, I've heard it. Yeah, I've heard it a couple times, I think.
It's a
Um,
tribute to Eddie Van Halen.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I've heard it once. I wouldn't say I'm familiar with it though.
I was going to get your take on the
Yeah,
guitar solo at the end. It's pretty unique. I
yeah.
thought. So, who's your favorite guitarist of all time?
Um, my favorite guitarist. Oh geez, I have a lot of. It's always changing, I'd say, depending on who I'm listening to at the time. Um, I love all the people I grew up listening to, from Jimi Hendrix to Brian May to Jimmy Page to Peter Frampton and big Jeff Beck fan, Eddie Van Halen fan, Neil Schon from Journey. Um, and then I have the jazz guitar players that I love, like Wes Montgomery and George Benson and Pat Metheny, and Joe Pass is a huge favorite of mine. So I have a really big um, I love rock, jazz, and blues guitar. I love country guitar. People like Tommy Emmanuel that kind of combine all the different things, kind of the Chet Atkins thing, along with jazz and rock and blues. So there's just um, so many guitar players. David Gilmour that I'm a fan of. I hate to boil it down to one person, because I'm really influenced by a lot of different players.
Yeah. Well, what are the are you having a lot of, I think this was last year when I was reading that you were having some problems with copyright. Is that still going on?
Well, that's the thing about any of the social media platforms, is that certain excuse me, certain artists don't want their music played on platform, certain platforms. The Eagles block just about everything, or I think everything. Bands like Guns N' Roses block everything. Jimi Hendrix's estate blocks things where they just can't use the music, can't play any, can't use it for teaching purposes or commentary or anything. I mean, I guess you could, and you could fight it, but it's not worth doing. So and but it's improved a lot over the last few years. I've made a lot of videos about it, about people that block, and there's a difference between people that have content ID claims, where they demonetize the video and they make the money from that, which I don't have a problem with. But it's the blocking, where they do automatic takedowns when you make a video and you spend 15 hours on it and then they take it down. And in videos that are legitimate fair use, um, they would be legitimate fair use claims, and you can fight them, but you fight them at the risk of having your channel taken down, theoretically.
Mhm. Yeah, my friend Leland Sklar has a good bit of those problems.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I know Lee very well, and he, at the beginning of his channel, he started getting these takedowns, and he would call me up, and I'd say, Lee, I don't know, I don't know what to tell you. Uh, it's it's a crapshoot with it. You don't know until you post the video, really. I mean, he was really just. I played on these records,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
that's the
know,
thing, yeah.
he couldn't believe it. He would get so mad, and I just would love it. Then you get on and post a video about it, and uh, and I didn't have any. Um, I didn't have any guidance for Melissa on it because I'd say, Lee, I don't know until I post the video what's going to happen either. I mean, you can get a idea on it, and then I had a fair idea of the people that would do it, but it's a lot of times it's a case by case thing. So um, I'll give you an example. There was a TikTok video with the song "Dreams," Stevie Nicks, off Rumors, and
Mhm,
it was huge. Guy was drinking ocean spray, cranberry juice, riding a skateboard. Right? It was, I mean, a huge viral hit.
mhm,
And I had a video on Go Your Own Way that I had done, a breakdown of the song that got taken down. Now, the difference between the two songs is that one, my song was written by Lindsey Buckingham, the other one was written by Stevie Nicks. And she has a different policy for social media that she doesn't care if her songs are used. And he did.
mhm.
And the funny thing is, my song got taken down a couple years before. Funny thing is, after her song got this huge resurgence, all of a sudden my song got unblocked on YouTube.
Oh.
So I'm not sure if there was any relation to it, but I had to think that maybe, you know, maybe it
Yeah,
had something to do with it. So people have changed their minds, or are changing their minds on it, I would say.
yeah. Well, I know during, um, I interviewed, Ann Wilson, and, she, as in several other artists, didn't want their particular work being played during certain political rallies.
Hmm.
So, there you go. There's another part of that,
Yeah,
but
it's the I understand. I don't begrudge anyone for making decisions on how they want their music to be used. It's up to them. Um, some of the music, which is interesting, like the James Taylor things that Lee was having taken down, James had no control over it. He had sold his catalog,
mm,
apparently. Um, I think this is what Lee had told me, and James couldn't do anything about it. So,
yeah.
my thing about it is that when used as a way to tell people about, using the music to make a video that introduces a song, an old song typically, to a younger audience, to not let that, I mean, it just affects the people's relevancy.
Mhm,
Jimi Hendrix, I made a video about Jimi Hendrix is being forgotten. And if you look at when nobody's talking about someone because their music is not being used on these social media platforms, eventually people forget about them. And if you look at um, a band like Nirvana has 25 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Jimi Hendrix has 7 million. Now, Jimi Hendrix, granted, hasn't put out anything since 1970, but Queen has 40 million monthly followers, right? Um, and people um, that are out there, if your music isn't out there, people forget about it because there's so people get inundated with so much new music all the time. Young people, I mean, if you look at the Stranger Things Netflix
mhm.
show, introduced people to Kate Bush, and her song, had a massive, um, just massive comeback. A lot of the 80s songs that were played on that and that are played on Cobra Kai, which is another big Netflix
It is.
thing. And these are, my kids are familiar with all these 80s songs because they hear them on these on these TV shows that they watch.
Mhm, mhm, exactly. What do you
Yeah.
think about Spotify as far as the artists are concerned?
Um, I use Spotify. I mean, I honestly I subscribe to Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music. Um, and I'll tell you why. And I use all three. Um, because essentially me paying the $12 a month or whatever it is for each one is about what I used to spend on albums in a year. If you think about how much albums cost, let's say you're buying 5 albums a month or something, or 3 albums a month. That's about what the cost of the 3 subscriptions is. Even though that money gets divided amongst the people that have the most plays, it's still a way for me to put money back into the musicians' hands for using their music and stuff, because it has value and it's important to me to pay for music. And I think it's so easy to have a streaming platforms where you just turn it on and you just take the music for granted, that you can listen to anything. And I think that to some people makes it have less perceived value because it's so ubiquitous, it's everywhere. So I think streaming is good, but these companies pay so poorly to the writers. They're just not it's not a really profitable uh it's not a profitable model, I don't think, for the streaming companies.
Yeah, I agree. When you're talking about the music in the 80s, and I guess it was 60s, 70s, 80s. I was thinking the other day about problematic content. I'm not sure if you've done a show on that or not, but I thought it would be interesting. Racial, sexual content back there that wouldn't make it today. Um, you know, uh, uh, Brown sugar, uh, kung fu fighting, even Island Girl. Uh, I guess that shows you how music has evolved, although, I'm sure there's content now that's, but it's sort of in a
There's
different.
well, there's plenty of content now that would never have gotten played
Right.
back then.
Yeah,
So
so
I
that's
think
what
I
I
think
meant
it
to
works
say.
both ways.
Uh-huh.
I I did a couple live shows recently, and I talked about the show Dark Shadows that was on when I was a kid
Yeah,
in the 60s, or 66 to 71. And I
yeah.
said, for the people that were younger, they didn't know it. I said it was a
Mm.
horror soap opera that was on during the Oprah slot, 4 in the afternoon for a half hour,
Yeah,
and had all this really dark, esoteric 20th century music. And
yeah.
it was about vampires and werewolves and witches and um, a very weird show for
It
you know
it
for
wa it
for that
was.
for that time
Uh,
period,
yes,
and
it was.
but I didn't think anything.
No, we didn't.
No, right? It was just
Yes. Uh,
it's like, okay, that's what's on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but that particular show actually informed my taste in music, because I got used to hearing this really dissonant 20th century music, and I liked the sound of it, and it was scary and mysterious. And I think that's why I was drawn to film scores and things like that later on. So I think it really expanded my ear.
Mhm,
So
mhm. Yeah, but, you're right. I mean, things now wouldn't be played back then, but, we thought, but, back then, we never thought about it.
that's right. That's
I
right.
mean, I'm just saying "Tonight's the Night" by Rod Stewart, and didn't really think about, the everything going on, and, of course, the Rolling Stones, I think those were 2 or 3. I think they've even changed the lyrics in one of them, since then, I'm not sure.
Well, if you think about a song, and I've wanted to make a video of this, like Operator by Jim Croce, right?
Hmm.
Can you help me place this call? Well,
Yeah.
people, what
Yeah.
does that even mean?
Yeah.
See, the number on the matchbook is old and faded. What's a matchbook?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
you know, thank you for your time. You've been for, so, you can keep the dime. You've been so much more than kind. You can keep the dime. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Then you have to say, well, there used to be these things called phone booths, and it used to be a
Uh,
dime to make a phone call. Wait, you
they're
had
like,
to pay a
oh,
dime? What?
yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
the whole context of that song is when you listen to it now,
Yeah.
it, it has no,
He doesn't. I still
right? There's
sing
no,
along, but
it's such a great song
yeah,
too. It's
yeah.
such a great song, but the context of it now makes no sense.
Right, it doesn't. I still sing along, but
Right.
it's about the yeah. They're when you say phone booth, I guess they're thinking Doctor Who. You
Right,
know,
right. Yeah.
that's about that. Yeah. Um,
I actually really like that. I love it that you when you go back and you listen to some of these
uh,
70s lyrics that just the things that were talked about in lyrics in the 70s that are just really not um I, I think about Gordon Lightfoot songs that the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Who would ever write a song like that nowadays,
yeah. Hmm. Absolutely.
this 8-minute long song that's a poem about a shipwreck
Uh-huh.
that becomes a huge hit, right? It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. It
you
is.
couldn't even imagine something like that being heard today.
There's a long list of those.
Yes,
Uh, thank goodness he wrote "If You Could Read My Mind" because that's sort
one of
of
my one of the greatest songs ever written. Love it.
mine too. I got to interview him and couldn't find a time or anything. And he said, can you do this at midnight? I said, sure, sure. So, and I think we were on the phone then, years ago, for about almost 2 hours.
Mhm.
Really, really nice guy, really cool guy, really,
Oh, I'm sure.
really talented.
Yeah.
But well, what's the future look like for YouTube? Do you have you know, any qualms about where it's going or if it's going to change for the better or for the worse or as a YouTuber?
I think that there's an emphasis, and it's just not on YouTube, but it's just towards short form content that people are companies are really investing more in their short form content, reels on Instagram, shorts on YouTube, obviously TikTok. Um, and YouTube is now making it where you can monetize the shorts, the things that would be the equivalent of TikTok, where TikTok you make very little if no money, you can't monetize it. And I think it's a very smart thing for YouTube to do. Um, and it takes different kinds of content to um to have work when you're a long form uh, when you make long form videos like I do. But I have a pretty big Instagram following that I do things that I call quick lessons, and I enjoy it. I do these 40-second guitar lessons, and it's really fun. I just put them up on. I just put up a post just before we got on here on Instagram Shorts and TikTok, and I think that's the kind of the future of YouTube. I think that's the future of all social media platforms is short form content.
Hmm.
And that's hopefully, I think in YouTube's case, short form content that will suggest your long form content to the people that are only on shorts. I mean, frankly, my wife and kids, they like YouTube shorts, and they're not on TikTok. And I don't know if they watch long form videos of the people, or some people don't even make long form videos that are on shorts, you know?
Mhm.
So, so that's the future of that is now is really kind of mastering short form content and stuff. So it's interesting. It's a challenge, but it's fun. Challenges are fun.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Well, I appreciate your taking the time today, Rick. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks. Me too, Melissa. Appreciate it.